Okay, we need to talk about Alix Earle's new skincare brand, Reale Actives, because the internet is not happy. There's been a lot of conversation around the marketing, ingredient choices, the prices, and whether this is actually a meaningful brand, or just influencer branding. And after going through the website, the product lineup, and the ingredients list, I think this is actually a really interesting brand to analyze. So firstly, what actually is the brand Reale Actives? So at its core, this is a 4-step acne-focused routine: cleanse, exfoliate, treat, and repair. Now that already tells me that this is targeting beginners, acne-prone skin, or people who want something simple and guided. This skincare line was developed alongside a dermatologist, which I think is important to mention because a lot of people were questioning Alix Earle's qualifications. And realistically, she herself doesn't necessarily need to be a dermatologist. That is why brands collaborate with professionals. And to be fair, someone who has personally struggled with acne and has tried hundreds of products does actually bring valuable user insight. Now, we're also in an era where ingredient education is so accessible, so consumers aren't just relying on marketing anymore. They can actually look into formulations themselves and make informed decisions. Now, where this brand becomes controversial is not actually the product formulas themselves, it's the branding. The tagline on the website is "Clean Skin, Dirty Thoughts," and visually it's very sensual, editorial, and hot girl aesthetic. Now, here's the problem with how this has been marketed. Acne is most common in teenagers, young adults, and people going through hormonal changes. So when you combine acne plus sexualized marketing, it raises the question, who is this actually for? Because I just don't think that if you have a strong product line with well-formulated ingredients that you need to rely on hyper-sexualized marketing to sell it. It really does make me question how much confidence there is in the products themselves if that is the angle they've chosen to launch this. Now look, I completely understand the intention of wanting to normalize acne, reduce shame, and build confidence around it. Because we absolutely should normalize and reduce stigma for something that is so normal for so many people. Acne for a lot of people is painful, medical, and very vulnerable. So turning that into something sexy can feel a bit disconnected. So after going through a lot of comments, there are a few main criticisms that keep coming up. And I want to go through them properly because I think some of them are very valid, but I think some of them are also very oversimplified. This is probably the biggest one I've seen, and it's a lot of people saying that her skin isn't the result of skincare, it's the result of isotretinoin, aka Accutane. And I understand where that's coming from because Accutane is well known for being very effective. But I do think this conversation is missing a bit of nuance. Yes, Accutane can give very significant results on the skin, but it is also very harsh. It can dehydrate the skin, thin the skin, compromise your barrier, and make your skin way more sensitive. So even if medication clears the acne itself, it doesn't mean your skin is healthy. You still need supportive skincare, hydration, barrier repair, and just overall skin maintenance. So I don't think it's completely fair to say that skincare played no role because realistically, maintaining results long term does require some form of routine. So for me, it's less medication versus skincare, and more so both probably played a role. The next big criticism is that this feels like an influencer cash grab. And I think this is more about industry fatigue than just her specifically. Because we have seen a huge wave of influencers launching brands, especially in skincare. So people are naturally becoming more critical and asking, what actually makes this different? And if the difference isn't immediately obvious, people are going to question the intention behind it. There is also only so many ways that you can actually launch a skincare brand. And to be fair, putting a focus on acne is often something that is overlooked. A lot of skincare is marketed on already perfect skin, so it is actually quite refreshing to see acne being normalized within the skincare line. This is probably the most valid criticism overall, and one I agree with the most. Because when you look at the branding, it's very luxury, edgy, sensual, hot girl energy. But when you actually look at the products, they're very standard acne staples. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it does create a bit of a disconnect. Because the experience being sold is very elevated and stylized, but the formulations themselves are quite simple and functional. And I think that gap between expectation and reality is what people are actually reacting to. Now, this is where I think it's very important to separate the marketing from the formulation, because they are not the same thing. So let's take a look at the products being launched by the brand. First up, we have the Go Deep Mandelic Acid Serum, and this is probably the hero product of the range. Mandelic acid is actually a really smart choice because it's an AHA BHA that chemically exfoliates the top layer of the skin. It's much gentler than something like glycolic acid and really good for acne and pigmentation. So for sensitive or acne-prone skin, this actually makes a lot of sense. And looking at the rest of the ingredients, things like licorice root extract, which is calming, arginine, which strengthens the skin barrier, and squalene, it's a well-rounded formula. Is it groundbreaking? No. But is it a solid formulation? Yes. And that's exactly what you want in an acne routine. But the name, I personally could have lived without. Moving on, we have the Pore Power Gel Cleanser. This uses LHA and BHA, so it's targeting clogged pores, oil, and texture, which again, it makes sense for acne-prone skin. There are also soothing and hydrating ingredients in there, such as ginger root extract and glycerin, which balances it out. But with exfoliating cleansers, especially if you're using them daily, there is a risk of overdoing it, particularly if you're already using actives elsewhere in your routine. So this is one of those products where how you use it really matters. It does say to use this in the morning and or the PM, which I honestly think is going to be too much. It probably would have been smarter to launch with a gentle cleanser and then have the serum be the exfoliating product that you use every few days. The next thing that they've launched is the Do More Moisturiser, and this is designed to hydrate your skin and boost your skin barrier. Barrier repair is so important in an acne routine and it is often overlooked. A lot of acne routines focus on stripping the skin, but they don't focus on actually repairing it. And if your skin barrier is compromised, inflammation increases, wound healing slows, and breakouts can actually get worse. So including ceramides, hyaluronic acid, and barrier supporting ingredients is exactly what you should be doing in an acne routine. Because without barrier support, even good actives can backfire. And the last product that the brand has is the Get Bare Makeup Cleansing Balm. This is your standard cleansing balm designed to remove makeup and sunscreen. It's got nourishing oils like squalene, green tea extract, which is an antioxidant, and soothing ingredients such as vitamin E and centella. I personally don't gravitate towards cleansing balms, mainly because they can be harder to remove properly. And with acne-prone skin, that can be an issue. You don't want to risk leaving behind residue or trapping makeup on the skin. It's also recommended to follow up with the gel cleanser, which kind of reinforces my earlier point. There is a potential for the routine to become a bit overstripping. So while the concept of the product is good, the lack of a gentle cleanser in this lineup could make this problematic, especially if the balm isn't being properly removed. So overall, when I look at this lineup of products, I think the formulations themselves are solid. The mandelic acid serum is well thought out and appropriate for acne-prone skin. The moisturiser does exactly what it should do in terms of barrier support. And even the cleanser, while something I personally use more cautiously, makes sense in their acne-focused approach. Where it starts to fall apart slightly is the execution of the routine as a whole. Because you've got multiple exfoliating steps, no true gentle cleanser, and a cleansing balm that may not be the easiest to remove, there is a potential for this routine to become a bit irritating or overstripping, especially for someone who is already dealing with compromised skin. So I don't think this is a bad skincare line at all. I just think it requires a bit more awareness from the consumer to use it in a way that actually supports their skin, rather than unintentionally damaging their barrier, which may not make it very beginner friendly. So let's talk about the pricing, because this is another area people have opinions on. This brand sits in that mid-range category, so it's not the cheapest, but it's definitely not luxury either. And when you compare it to other brands in the space, such as The Ordinary, which is very ingredient focused and budget friendly, CeraVe, which is known for barrier repair and affordability, and Paula's Choice, which leans more clinical with stronger actives. Naturally, people are looking at this and asking, where does it fit and is it worth it? Yes, it is more expensive than some of the competitors, but at the same time, most skincare these days is getting more expensive, so it's not exactly unusual. And if the formulations are high quality and actually effective, then a mid-range price point isn't necessarily a problem. For me, the issue isn't the price on its own, it's whether the product actually justifies that price. To be fair, there are definitely some strengths here. First, this is a very simple, structured routine which is great for beginners. It's clearly focused on acne, but also includes barrier support, which is so important and often overlooked. There's also that dermatology collaboration, which adds a level of credibility to the formulations. And overall, it feels quite accessible. It's not overly clinical or intimidating. And honestly, less really is more when it comes to skincare. I've personally gone through phases of overloading my skin with actives and way too many products, and it always backfires. So I do appreciate the simplicity of this approach. But there are also some clear weaknesses with this brand. There is a lack of innovation. Nothing here is particularly new or unique. It does rely quite heavily on personal branding, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does become part of how people judge the brand. The marketing tone is also quite divisive and may not resonate with everyone. And there are also still some trust concerns when it comes to communicating results through their clinical testing. And for me personally, the over-sexualization is just where it really starts to lose me. Not because confidence or sexuality is a bad thing, but because it doesn't really feel aligned with the product category. At the end of the day, skincare is about skin health, and this feels more like an aesthetic narrative than a functional one. So overall, I don't think this is a bad brand. I think it's a very standard skincare line with very strong branding wrapped around it. And that's exactly why people are reacting the way they are. And I'm actually very supportive of influencers launching brands, because realistically, relying on social media isn't stable long term. So creating something of your own, especially something that connects to your own personal experience, makes sense. And I do think there's value in bringing more awareness to acne and making it more normalized. But marketing matters. And in this case, skincare and sex just don't feel like they belong in the same conversation. So I want to hear from you. Do you think the branding works? Would you actually try this, or does this just feel like another influencer cash grab? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Well, I'm going to finish the video off here. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to see any other content I don't create here, check out my Instagram at makeupwithalix. All of my socials are linked down below. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!